Fair warning, this one is horrible in the most heartbreaking way. This podcast has taken the position in the past that VAERS just needs to end because it does far more harm than good. VAERS is the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. If you think you've been harmed by a vaccine or had any sort of negative reaction following a vaccine, you can report it in VAERS. That's right, it's all self-reported with no causation or even confirmation. We've covered in the past the weird things that have showed up, such as vaccines causing alien abductions. In one case, a VAERS entry says that a vaccine caused someone to turn into the Incredible Hulk. VAERS does have a role to play in epidemiology, but every study your host has looked at that's relied on it has had to have so many caveats about the unreliability of the vaccine data. In fact, most of the serious studies rely on the VSD, Vaccine Safety Data Link. Unlike VAERS, vaccination records are confirmed and linked to electronic medical records with formal diagnoses instead of self-reports. It was VSD, not VAERS, that helped professionals link myocarditis as a rare adverse event of mRNA COVID vaccines. And there are several others as well. Of course, it's VAERS that's the darling of the anti-vax movement, since they can pull out all sorts of crazy information to support whatever conspiracy theory they want. More importantly, and more dangerously, it's been noted that increase in adverse events of a vaccine reported in VAERS aren't linked to a change in the vaccine or who's getting it, but rather to upcoming litigation against the company who makes it. Yes, most of the entries are made at the behest of ambulance chasers essentially falsifying information. And this story shows one that's far more horrific than any of them. Andrea Shaw has received news attention and even podcast appearances after the deaths of her two 18-month-old twins, who, as reported in VAERS, died as a result of vaccines they received a week before their deaths. But Idaho News 2 in Boise reported a completely different version of the story. Quote, "The Payette Police Department announced the indictment of 23-year-old Andrea Shaw, formerly of Payette, on 2 counts of first-degree murder in connection with the deaths of her 18-month-old twins. Shaw was arrested by Boise police on June 30th. The newly released indictment accuses Shaw of suffocating both of her twins to death. Both charges are of murder in the first degree, meaning the prosecution is alleging that Shaw deliberately, with premeditation and with malice aforethought, killed both of her children, meaning she will be eligible for the death penalty, though the prosecution has not yet announced whether they intend to seek it." That's the result of a year-long investigation, during which time she appeared on the podcast for Children's Health Defense, the anti-vax organization associated with RFK Jr. CHD teamed up with Shaw to file a lawsuit against the American Academy of Pediatrics, claiming they misled the public about the safety of vaccines. After the indictment, they did not step away. In fact, they doubled down, implying that her arrest is really for daring to speak out against vaccines. These people are absolutely disgusting! I don't really have any more words than that, and I don't think I need any either.